It all ended after Xia Tingwan's car accident. Su Yan and Xia Tingwan got divorced. Only then did Xia Tingwan realize how much he loved Su. Secretary Lu pushed that stack of cold prenup papers across the table. His tone was so flat you couldn't hear any. Just said it was Mr. Su. Told Xia Tingwan to read it inside. Tingwan's fingers trembled as he picked at his nail. His eyes locked almost desperately on the roses blooming outside the window. Of all times, he had to face Secretary Lu's all-business expression. He whipped his head up, slicing straight through his eye socket, impossible to hide under the light. It tore apart the face that once stunned everyone. His voice carried a hint of desperate hope, asking if Su Yan would show up. Secretary Lu politely adjusted his glass, said Mr. Su with words. Xia Tingwan gave a bitter smile. Didn't even bother looking anymore. Just flipped to the last page and scrawled his name. In the end, he still walked away with nothing. He stopped writing, eyes fixed on his left ring finger. On that clear jade ring. Back then, Su Yan had tenderly taken his, said his skin was so. Only this jade could bring out his elegance. Even promising that a person nurtures jade and jade nurtures the person. Su Yan had held him tight, whispered gently that he should wear this ring forever. Back then, Xia Tingwan wasn't attached to this marriage. Didn't care what he wore. Who knew forever would be so short? Just 5 years and it was over. Efficiently collected the paper. Before leaving, reminded him to take his time packing. Said Mr. Su would have a driver ready. Told him to watch what he said to the media. In the empty mansion, Xia Tingwan washed away all his exhaustion. Then spotted that postcard on the cabinet. It was the love note Su Yan wrote by hand when he was courting. The writing was neat. Called him a sweet juicy peach on the brag. But now those sweet words were long gone. That man would never write him poems again. He used to hate Su Yan's arrogant rich boy attitude. He did how he forced him to sign that contract, forced him to live together. But fate's cruel. One brutal car crash sent him tumbling from the top. Yesterday's superstar became a disfigured freak everyone avoided. 5 years of kindness repaid with cold abandonment. Xia Tingwan buried his head deep in his knees. A trapped animal's whimper escaped just from this suffocating feeling, he abandoned by the whole world. Broke him down even more than the pain from the crash. So he finally realized that when love dies, the scene is this ugly. It was the day the wild language crew held their press launch at the Peninsula Hotel. That day Xia Tingwan was unsteady on his feet from a hangover. His whole vibe was hazy and broken. His assistant glared at him in the rearview mirror. Scolded him for drinking so much before an event. Just told him to dodge the reporters later. Xia Tingwan pressed his throbbing temple and kept apologizing. Never expect. The second he got out of the car, he was swarmed by cameras. Little cotton padded jacket comics. And all kinds of tapes on his carriage. Xia Tingwan's brain went blank. Couldn't get a single word out. Then some nasty reporter dug up dirt on him hitting nightclubs. Asked if he was bringing his character's dysfunction into real life. Just when he was about to lose it, a broad hand landed firmly on his shoulder. Director, you just showed up. Just in time. Xia Tingwan to the cameras as the most talented actor he'd ever seen. That move set off all the flashes. Xia Tingwan shot him a grateful look. Listened to Shuja tell everyone about the audition stories. Called him the most stunning color in the deep sea. Xia Tingwan kept up his professional fake smile. Then found a gap and slipped into the bathroom. Splashed water on his face like trying to get some clarity. He desperately tried to remember those PR lines, but couldn't recall a single one. Right then, he suddenly spotted a man standing behind him in the mirror. The guy was around 30. Held a flashy gold cane in his right hand. Gave off this powerful, scrutinizing vibe. Was still staring. And held it out to him. Looking at himself like a drowned rat. Xia Tingwan awkwardly tried to decline. But the man spoke first. He pointed out. Even washing his face wouldn't hide the smell. Said wiping with this would help. Xia Tingwan took the handkerchief. A crisp, cool scent hit his nose instantly. That's when he understood what the man meant. He finished wiping and wanted to return. But felt weird about. Who knew the man had already naturally taken. The movement was elegant like an old school gentleman. The man turned and held the door open. Used his team to signal him to go. Xia Tingwan stepped forward, but felt this weird stubborn feeling. Suddenly stopped and asked who he was. The man smiled faintly. His eyes held some emotion you couldn't read. Said straight up he was just a fan. That man clearly promised to give him a home. Little cotton padded jacket comics. Not only kicked out of the mansion, didn't even have a place to go back to. Because the mother who pulled him out of hell years ago had already sold him off to that man like a bargaining chip. At the press event, Xia Tingwan got flustered again. And some weekly magazine reporter kept poking at sore spot. Not only praised his portrayal of the victim as spot on, but also asked about his personal life. Even asked if he personally experienced that kind of trauma. That question made Xia Tingwan's breath catch. Right then, under the spotlight, even just a few silence was enough to make you cringe. His palms kept sweating. As his eyes darted around, he actually spotted sitting in the front row. His hands were clasped. That focused, steady gaze made him feel a bit more settled. So he forced a smile, pulled out some perfect scripted answer. Said he had no such experience. It was all thanks to the director's guidance that he found the character so. Thought he'd gotten away with it, but kept wondering to himself, why was that fan sitting in the investors section? But when he looked again, the seat was already empty. Even though he was the main event, Xia Tingwan's mood tanked because of his earlier performance. Just wanted to disappear on the spot. He just found some empty corner to hide it. Who knew his agent still had sharp eyes and locked on? When Zhou Yang looked like that, it was never good news. Xia Tingwan sipped his champagne and raised an eyebrow, telling him to spit it out. Then Zhou Yang snatched the glass from his hand. Said helplessly someone wanted to take him to dinner. No, sir. Xia Tingwan turned it down flat without thinking. Didn't even want to know who it was. Said he didn't want to deal with those so-called rich guys. But this time Zhou Yang's expression changed. At the man talking with the director. Hinted that this Mr. Su's background was not someone to mess with. Oh, don't be that. Zhou Yang even said, if he really couldn't afford to never ask. After hearing this, Xie Tingwen just froze for a moment. Then anger shot straight to his head. He grabbed the glass back without and stormed straight towards Su Yan. Even though Shu Yan was in the middle of a good conversation, he shoved himself right between them. A mocking smile played on his lips, his eyes full of challenge. Why bother pretending to be a fan and messing with him? He snorted to himself. Thought these big shots all played the same game. Just wanted to play this power trip game. Pathetic. Su Yan looked down at this young man bristling with anger. A flicker of surprise crossed his eyes. Who knew Xia Tingwen would drop a bombshell? Just threw caution to the wind and said, might as well ask this Mr. Su what he's planning. The second the words left his mouth, was already cursing and inside. Thought his temper had totally fried his brain. Actually put this out there in public. Maybe even drag director Xu in. But since he'd said it, had to stick his neck out and see it. Still expect. Su Yan didn't get it. Instead, he bowed slightly and apologized. Now it was a Xia Tingwen's turn. This man who looked noble to the bone actually lowered his head. Then Su Yan calmly explained. He noticed his mood was off at the event. That's why he thought of inviting him. He turned around. He couldn't find it. So he asked Zhou Yang to pass the message. Must have been some kind of mix-up. Right then, Xia Tingwen just wanted to find a hole to crawl into. Could only mutter a quiet okay. Then Su Yan turned to the side, took something from that tower of a bodyguard behind him, elegant Brady, and handed it to him. Turns out Su Yan had specially tracked down this block, wanted to use this chance to get it signed. He really was a fan, no lie. In that moment, Xia Tingwen's face burned with shame. Didn't even dare look at the man's face. He grabbed the pen, scribbled his name on the disc, kept beating himself up aside for being sly. Luckily, Su Yan didn't hold a grudge. Gave him enough dignity. But right then, Su Yan's deep, magnetic voice sounded in his ear again. Little cotton-padded jacket. If anyone else ever made him this kind of crazy offer for dinner, no matter who they were, tell them to get lost. Xia Tingwen jerked his head up. Total disbelief. Not just because Su Yan's whole classy vibe totally clashed with that crude phrase, but because in this rushed confrontation, I felt the man's bossy, yet incredibly thoughtful protection. There was actually a subtle, warm smile. Told him if this caused any trouble, he could come to him anytime to fix it. But before Xia Tingwen could snap, the man just left a brief thank you, then turned and walked away without looking back. It had been 8 full days since Su Yan sang Secretary Lu. A full 8 days. Only now did Xia Tingwen finally accept that he really wasn't coming back. He couldn't keep holding on to false hope and dragging his. Had to start packing his scattered belongings. After all, Su Yan never left him alone in this empty house. For this long? Suddenly a thought hit him. Or maybe act cute and say he missed that man show up like before. Right in front of him in an instant. Thinking about it, Xia Tingwen slumped to the floor, half kneeling. His body shaking out. He really missed Su Yan. Even wanted to scream and demand why he was so heartless to abandon me. Actually, there wasn't much to pack. He organized the big stuff he couldn't take and left it with the butler. So he just grabbed one small suitcase, put on sunglasses to hide his red eyes, and walked out of the Su family. Then the driver quietly asked where to go. Tingwen stared blankly at the fragrant hill scenery flying past the window. A bitter feeling rose inside. Go back to that place where he was just a punching bag. That's so. Called thinking back to when he was left him with that alcoholic who just abused his son, that jerk Zhong. Zhang Xuqiao showed up again with her businessman stepdad and pulled him out of hell just like that. Back then he was young and trembling, holding out his scared arms, saying it hurt. But Zhang Xuqiao just wrinkled her nose in disgust. Told him coldly to remember to smile like his stepdad after he put on the medal. Then a few years later the stepdad's business. Zhang Xuqiao changed her tune. Said all serious that he owed her for saving him. Had to go spend his life with Mistress. Said Mr. Xu truly teared Troy. Go back to that place where she saw him as a bargaining chip. Trading away his life, however, couldn't help thinking back to Su Yan's promise 5 years ago. His eyes had burned as he told him. Even though he couldn't change, he'd give him a real home from now on. But right then, his phone screen suddenly lit up, showing a call from his birth mother Zhang Xuqiao. Xia Tingwen stared at the screen and laughed. She probably didn't care if he lived or died. Just wanted to push him to beg Su Yan for forgiveness. When the driver asked again, Xia Tingwen hung his head crushed, his voice barely audible. He didn't have a home menu. Finally just told the driver to head to his assistant's place. Then he tossed his phone aside. The screen showed their intimate photo together. The screensaver felt especially mocking. To get over his heartbreak, the big star crashed at his assistant's place for 2 weeks.